Everything changes in a matter of seconds in this league. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we are stepping right inside the gripping, high-stakes reality of the Chicago Bears front office. But before we dive into tearing down the tape, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and comment below on what you think about these massive roster shifts. And hey, if you want to truly support the deep dive cinematic breakdowns we do here, consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member.
So here is the million-dollar question. Can a championship truly be built on ruthless cuts and raw confessions? I mean, in the NFL, a missed tackle, a blown assignment, or in this case, literally just the stroke of a pen in a front office war room, it changes the entire trajectory of a franchise. Because look, what's happening in Chicago right now, it is not just your standard offseason, it's a crucible. We're talking about a team burdened with the absolute heaviest expectation in sports, a completely wide-open Super Bowl window. And right now they are standing at this terrifying crossroads where millions of dollars and lifelong dreams just violently collide. They're completely overhauling their roster. I'm talking tearing it down to the studs in some places, all while being completely haunted by the ghosts of a totally failed 2025 pass rush. It's this crazy dual reality, you know? On one side of the building, you've got offensive dreams being mathematically shattered by salary cap constraints. And then on the other side, defensive coaches are literally standing in front of their men, taking the blame for a catastrophic structural failure that left their secondary entirely exposed. It's a level of drama, tension, and sheer desperation you rarely see unfiltered in the National Football League. We are going to examine every microscopic angle of this today.
All right, so let's start with the immediate context, the 53-man reality.
Right now, behind closed doors, head coach Ben Johnson and general manager Ryan Poles are dealing with the most unforgiving math equation in professional sports. See, you're allowed to bring 90 men to training camp, but you can only keep 53. That means 37 guys, many of whom have literally bled for this franchise, are going to be pulled into a room and told they are no longer wanted. And every single day, that margin for error shrinks. Nowhere is this reality more heartbreaking than at the quarterback position. On one hand, you have the protected class. You've got Caleb Williams, right? The unquestioned franchise savior, no-brainer. You have Tyson Bagent, the gritty, proven backup who knows the system inside and out. And then you have Case Keenum. Now, Keenum isn't just protected by his veteran resume. He is protected by the ledger. He's holding a shiny new 2-year, $5.5 million contract with guaranteed money. And in the NFL, guaranteed money means you are practically uncuttable unless the team wants to eat a massive dead cap penalty. That room is locked, it's expensive, it's mathematically secure. But then, standing alone in the cold is Miller Moss, a super promising rookie who steps onto the field every single day, knowing that no matter how perfectly he throws the ball, no matter how early he gets to the facility, the math simply does not include him. There's just no room at the inn. The Bears are fully expected to cut him, leaving this hyper-talented young asset twisting in the wind, simply because of salary cap constraints and roster limits.
And honestly, Miller Moss's story is nothing short of cinematic irony. It's like something out of a movie. From 2022 to 2023, Moss sat quietly in the shadows at USC, faithfully backing up none other than, you guessed it, Caleb Williams. He waits his turn, a totally silent understudy to a generational superstar. Then, in 2025, he makes this massive gamble. He transfers to Louisville to finally be the leading man. And he absolutely explodes. He completely masters these complex pro-style spread concepts, throwing for a massive 2,679 yards, 16 touchdowns, and takes home bowl game MVP honors. He proved he is an absolute weapon, capable of dissecting top-tier defenses. So in 2026, he has a choice. He actually chooses Chicago over multiple other interested teams. Why? Because he believes in Ben Johnson's highly acclaimed offensive system. He knows his football IQ perfectly matches what Johnson wants to do. Only to arrive in Chicago and realize he is, once again, standing directly in the suffocating shadow of Caleb Williams, facing immediate relegation. His NFL dreams are being put on indefinite hold, entirely outside of his control.
The tragic part is, the coaching staff knows exactly what they have in this kid. Offensive coordinator Press Taylor recently came out and said, "A player like this has the potential to stick around in the league and potentially play, which is our mission." Taylor kind of frames having a crowded, talented quarterback room as this great problem to have. And conceptually, yeah, he's right. But mechanically, it creates a massive, high-stakes ripple effect. Because in the NFL, you cannot simply hide a player on the practice squad. It doesn't work that way. The waiver wire is a brutal 24-hour window where a cut player is exposed to all 31 other general managers. And because Moss is so meticulously prepared and talented, there's no way he clears waivers. Quarterback-needy teams like the Raiders or the Giants are monitoring the wire like hawks, just waiting to instantly claim a young player of his caliber. So the practice squad, It's a total fantasy. The only way Miller Moss makes the 53-man roster is if the Bears execute a blockbuster 11th-hour trade involving Tyson Bagent, who, by the way, has been swirling in trade rumors himself. The dominoes are lined up, and one wrong move means Chicago loses a highly coveted developmental asset for absolutely nothing. But look, as unforgiving as the offensive cuts are, they honestly pale in comparison to what's happening on the other side of the ball. Let's talk about Section 2, the defensive demons.
You can have the most explosive, dynamic offense in the league, but if you cannot drag the opposing quarterback to the turf in the freezing cold of December and January, your Super Bowl window slams shut before it even opens. And right now, the Bears are being haunted by the total, systemic failure of their 2025 pass rush. The numbers from last year are the kind of statistics that literally keep defensive coordinators awake at 3 a.m. In 2025, the Chicago Bears tied for the 7th fewest sacks in the entire National Football League. But the second metric here, that is the real nightmare. Their pass rush win rate was the second worst in football. Second worst. Out of 32 professional franchises. Let that sink in. For those who might not know the exact ESPN and Pro Football Focus parameters, a pass rush win means a defensive lineman beats his blocker within 2.5 seconds. If your defensive front ranks dead last in winning battles at the line of scrimmage, you are demanding your cornerbacks and safeties cover elite wide receivers, guys like Justin Jefferson or Amon-Ra St. Brown, for 4, 5, or sometimes even 6 seconds. That is not just difficult, it is a biomechanical impossibility. It is an absolute schematic death sentence.
Which leads us to honestly the most perplexing mystery of the entire year. A shocking offseason. When a franchise has the second worst pass rush win rate in football, you expect them to move heaven and earth in the spring, right? You expect aggressive, desperate action. Elite edge rushers like Daniel Hunter and Brian Burns were available. You expect massive free agent signings, blockbuster trades, or heavy first-round investment in the draft. But instead, the Chicago Bears did absolutely nothing of significance to address the defensive front externally. No massive additions, no high-profile reinforcements. They willfully ignored the premium free agents on the market. They looked at a completely broken, mathematically flawed system and decided to just stand pat. It was a stunning display of either incredible organizational hubris or extreme, unbreakable internal confidence. The media was completely baffled, and frankly, the fan base was furious.
But the deafening silence of the offseason was eventually broken by this incredibly raw, unvarnished confession. Listen to the accountability from defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. He said, "We had a lot of discussions this offseason about a lot of different things. And one of the things we identified was me. We focused so much on installing all the scheme last year, we lost sight of some of the fundamentals and techniques. In a league defined by massive egos and constant finger-pointing, you rarely see a top-tier coach step to the microphone and publicly admit, it was my fault. I overcomplicated it. I paralyzed my own players." The Bears were out there utilizing dizzying whiteboards. They were calling complex stunts that ended up confusing their own linemen. They were overloading fronts and occasionally dropping 300-pound defensive tackles into flat coverage. It was a chaotic mess. So this admission, it shifts the entire burden of proof directly and heavily onto the coaching staff.
And the man in charge, head coach Ben Johnson, didn't offer an ounce of cover or an excuse. He echoed the exact same sentiment. He basically said, "We're certainly going to coach better than what we did a year ago. It starts there." Consider the dynamic here for a second. It is exceptionally rare for a brilliant, offensive-minded head coach like Ben Johnson to demand a complete teardown of the defensive teaching methods without simply firing the veteran defensive coordinator. But Johnson clearly believes in Allen. He just demanded a total return to foundational truth. No more complex, high-volume packages that leave edge rushers overthinking instead of reacting. The message was crystal clear. We failed these incredible athletes as teachers, and the only way to fix a 2025 disaster without spending $100 million in free agency in 2026 is to completely, violently overhaul how we teach the game of football. And the immediate impact of those confessions has completely shifted the culture and the literal sounds on the Bears' practice grass. We go from scheme to scrimmage. The defensive field is no longer a classroom, it's a fight. The focus has pivoted violently away from high-volume scheme installation straight into raw, physical, fundamental football. If you go out there and listen to the collision of pads, they are focusing entirely on the biomechanics of a defensive end. They are out there drilling hand placement until hands bleed. They're studying the precise geometry of leverage, the violent shedding of blocks, the instantaneous transition from speed to power directly at the point of attack. It's a back-to-basics grueling boot camp designed to just strip away the overthinking and unlock the primal, terrifying athleticism of their defensive line.
And they desperately need that grueling boot camp to work because they are relying entirely on critical internal developments.
Yes, they have their undisputed star, Montez Sweat, but Sweat cannot do it alone. Opposing offensive coordinators will just slide their protection and double-team him on every single passing down if a secondary threat doesn't emerge to punish them. So who are they banking on? Dayo Odeyingbo, returning from a brutal stint on injured reserve, Shamar Turner, also fighting his way back from devastating leg injuries on IR, and Austin Booker, the emerging explosive wild card. Consider the physical toll on a 280-pound man trying to explode off the line of scrimmage after major reconstructive surgery. These three men are carrying the entire weight of the Chicago Bears defense on their surgically repaired shoulders. If their bodies fail, the whole system collapses.
Now consider the baseline, 4.5. That is the exact number of sacks produced by Austin Booker last season. Now, 4.5 might not sound like a league-leading, terrifying statistic, right? But you've got to look significantly deeper into the player profile. For a young, raw, fifth-round draft pick thrust into a broken, overly complex scheme, 4.5 sacks is a massive flash of elite potential. Austin Booker possesses an 83-inch wingspan. He has this elite, terrifying first step off the snap, and raw, unnatural bend around the edge. The Bears are not viewing that 4.5 as a ceiling. They're viewing it as a baseline, the absolute floor. They firmly believe that with the scheme simplified, the mental paralysis totally removed, and the physical fundamentals refined, Austin Booker can explode into a double-digit sack nightmare for opposing quarterbacks.
And that deep faith extends to the recovering veterans as well. Ben Johnson was super emphatic about what he saw from Odeyingbo and Turner before their bodies gave out. He said, "We saw growth, and we saw them trending the right direction in terms of what we want to see on game day." But make no mistake, this is a medical and developmental gamble of historic proportions. The Bears are betting an entire Super Bowl caliber season on the training staff and the fundamental growth of players who were inconsistent even before they suffered catastrophic injuries. The margin for error here is razor thin. If one of these edge rushers tweaks an Achilles or a knee in week 2, the depth chart behind them is essentially non-existent. Johnson believes the pieces are there, but potential means absolutely nothing if it doesn't translate to an opposing quarterback lying on his back on a crucial third down in the fourth quarter.
Which brings us to the ultimate stakes of this entire saga. Because look, this is not just an explainer about a talented backup quarterback like Miller Moss facing the brutal realities of the waiver wire, or about 300-pound edge rushers doing leverage drills in the sweltering heat of training camp. This is about a rapidly, violently closing championship window. In the modern NFL economy, having an elite, franchise-altering quarterback on a rookie contract is the single most powerful financial advantage in the sport, period. When a team pays Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson $50 to $60 million a year, the rest of their roster naturally suffers. You have to make cuts. The Bears, however, have Caleb Williams on a highly affordable rookie deal. That extra $45 million in cap space, that pays for your elite receivers. It pays for your secondary. But that financial clock is ticking loudly. Every single year that passes is a year utterly wasted if the 52 men around him are not weaponized properly. The pressure weighing down on Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson is astronomical. That massive financial advantage is peaking right now.
And if this grand internal experiment fails, if the raw confessions and grueling fundamental drills do not mathematically fix the pass rush, we're left with a chilling realization. The trade deadline looms. If Odeyingbo, Turner, and Booker cannot support Montez Sweat by October, the Bears will be forced into a desperate, panicked, heavily leveraged move on the midseason trade market. They will literally have to mortgage their future, trading away premium draft capital, like future first or second-round picks, out of sheer necessity simply because they decided to stand completely pat during the offseason. So I leave you with this final provocative thought. Are the Chicago Bears brilliant for trusting their internal coaching and preserving their assets, or are they walking blindly into a devastating disaster of their own making? Let me know exactly what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching this explainer on NFL Nexus. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and become a channel member to support this deep dive content. We'll see you next time as the high-stakes drama in Chicago continues to unfold.